The invisible thread. Welcome. Pause for a moment. Close your eyes if you can and breathe deeply. Right now, at this very instant, something invisible is flowing through you. Not metaphorically, physically. A force so ancient and so fundamental that it has shaped every living creature on this planet for millions of years. You are standing on a sphere wrapped in magnetic energy, and your body, your brain, your very perception of reality is tuned to frequencies that most people never consciously acknowledge. Have you ever wondered why birds know exactly where to fly when winter arrives? Why whales can navigate thousands of miles through featureless ocean depths? Why you might feel inexplicably restless on certain nights, or why your sleep seems deeper after days of clear, calm weather? The answer lies in something you cannot see, cannot touch, yet cannot escape. Before we begin this journey together, I want to invite you to subscribe to the Relaxing Science channel, give this video a like, and share your location and the time of day below. Your perspective matters, and knowing where you are in the world right now adds meaning to what we're about to explore. The Earth itself is a magnet, not a metaphorical one, but a true magnetic entity, with a North Pole and a South Pole, surrounded by an invisible field of force that extends thousands of miles into space. This field was born roughly 4 billion years ago, generated deep within our planet's molten iron core, where convection and rotation create what scientists call a dynamo effect. Imagine the planet's interior as a vast churning ocean of liquid metal, swirling in patterns of unimaginable complexity. As this metal moves, it generates electrical currents, and those currents produce the magnetic field that envelops us all. This field is not static or uniform. It pulses, it fluctuates, it responds to the solar wind, to cosmic radiation, to the dance between our planet and the sun. For billions of years, life on Earth has evolved in the presence of this magnetic field. It is as much a part of our environment as gravity, as oxygen, as light itself. And over those eons, living creatures have developed an extraordinary sensitivity to it. Some organisms can sense the magnetic field directly through specialized proteins and minerals in their cells. Others have woven this sensitivity so deeply into their biology that it became invisible to them. Just as we do not consciously feel the weight of the atmosphere pressing down on our skin. But it is there. It is always there. Your own body contains magnetite, a form of iron oxide that is naturally magnetic. These tiny crystals exist in your eyes, in your inner ear, scattered throughout your nervous system. They are not there by accident. They are the legacy of millions of years of evolution, a biological inheritance that connects you to every other living thing on this planet. When you feel drawn to face a certain direction, when you sense that something is not quite right without knowing why, when you experience an intuition that seems to come from nowhere, you might be sensing the gentle pull of Earth's magnetic field through these crystals embedded in your very being. The implications of this are profound and humbling. You are not separate from the planet. You are not an isolated consciousness trapped in meat and bone, disconnected from the larger forces that govern existence. Rather, you are a living antenna, constantly receiving and processing information from the electromagnetic environment around you. Your brain, that extraordinary organ of contemplation and consciousness, has evolved alongside this field for so long that the two have become inseparable. Your sleep patterns are synchronized to it. Your moods fluctuate with its strength. Your ability to make decisions, to think clearly, to feel at peace, all of these are influenced by the invisible magnetic threads that bind you to Earth. What we are about to explore together is not science fiction. It is not speculation or wishful thinking. It is the cutting edge of neuroscience, biology, and physics, the place where rigorous scientific investigation reveals truths that sound almost poetic in their beauty. We will journey through the mechanisms by which your body detects magnetic fields. We will examine how other creatures use this sense to accomplish feats of navigation that still astound us. We will explore what happens to your brain and body when the Earth's magnetic field becomes disturbed by solar activity. And most importantly, we will understand what this means for you right now in your life. This is not a video meant to alarm you or to suggest that you should fear the invisible forces around you. Quite the opposite. Understanding your magnetic connection to Earth is an invitation to relax more deeply, to trust the ancient wisdom encoded in your biology, and to recognize yourself as part of something infinitely larger than your individual concerns. When you understand that your sleep cycles are synchronized with planetary rhythms that have governed life for billions of years, there is a profound peace in that knowledge. When you realize that the same force that guides migrating birds also flows through your nervous system, you begin to see yourself differently. You become aware of your place in a vast, interconnected web of life. As we move through this exploration, allow yourself to settle into a state of calm receptivity. You do not need to memorize facts or understand complex equations. Instead, let the ideas wash over you. Visualize the concepts we discuss. Feel the magnetic field as a gentle presence, not threatening but nurturing, connecting you to the living world around you. Some of you may find yourselves growing drowsy as we progress. That is natural and welcome. Your brain is responding to the rhythm of this narrative, to the gentle pacing and the soothing themes we are exploring. If sleep comes, surrender to it. The information will still reach your subconscious mind, and your body will continue to process these ideas even as your conscious awareness drifts away. The invisible thread that connects you to Earth's magnetic field is always there, whether you are aware of it or not. Tonight, we will make that thread visible. We will trace its path through your body, through your brain, through your sleep and your waking moments. We will see how it connects you to birds and whales and countless other creatures. And we will emerge from this experience with a deeper understanding of what it truly means to be alive on this magnetic planet. So let us begin this gentle descent into the science of magnetism, into the mystery of your own being, and into the eternal dance between your consciousness and the forces that sustain all life. Crystals in your eyes. Deep within the structure of your eyes, in the tissues that allow you to perceive light and color and the world around you, there exists something remarkable that most people never discover. Magnetite crystals, these are not large, visible structures. They are microscopic, measured in units so small that thousands of them could fit on the period at the end of this sentence. Yet their presence is profound, their function essential. Magnetite is a form of iron oxide, a naturally occurring mineral that possesses inherent magnetic properties. When exposed to a magnetic field, these crystals align themselves according to the direction and strength of that field, much like tiny compass needles responding to invisible forces. The discovery of magnetite in human tissues was not made until relatively recently in scientific history. For decades, researchers knew that many animals could sense magnetic fields. Birds, fish, sea turtles, even some insects demonstrated an uncanny ability to navigate using Earth's magnetic field as a guide. Yet the mechanism remained mysterious. How could they do this? What biological structure allowed them to detect something so imperceptible to human instruments? Then gradually, through careful observation and sophisticated analysis, scientists began to find magnetite crystals in the eyes and nervous tissues of these animals. And then, astonishingly, they found magnetite in human beings as well. Your eyes are windows to the world, but they are also something more. They are sensory organs of extraordinary complexity, containing millions of light-sensitive cells, intricate networks of neural connections, and countless biological structures working in perfect coordination to translate photons into the visual experience you enjoy every moment of your waking life. Embedded within this delicate system are these magnetic crystals. They do not interfere with your vision. They do not create any conscious sensation that you can point to and say, "There, that is the magnetite responding to Earth's magnetic field." Instead, they work quietly, continuously, gathering information about the direction of magnetic north and transmitting this data to your brain through neural pathways that have been refined over millions of years of evolution. Imagine a structure so small that it cannot be seen with the naked eye, yet so perfectly designed that it can detect variations in magnetic field strength of less than 1%. This is the magnetite crystal in your eye. It sits there, patient and ancient, waiting to receive the subtle signatures of Earth's magnetic field. When the field shifts, when it strengthens or weakens, when it rotates even slightly, these crystals respond. They move. They vibrate. They send signals down neural pathways to your brain, which interprets these signals and updates your internal sense of direction, your sense of where magnetic north lies relative to your body. This is not your conscious compass sense. You cannot deliberately point north with your eyes closed and expect to be accurate most of the time. Yet, research has shown that humans possess a subliminal awareness of magnetic north. In studies where participants are asked to guess the direction of north, their accuracy is slightly but significantly better than pure chance. This is not a strong sense like vision or hearing, but it is present, it is real, and it is mediated, at least in part, by the magnetite crystals in your eyes. But magnetite is not found only in your eyes, it is distributed throughout your body. Researchers have identified magnetite in your inner ear, that delicate structure responsible for balance and spatial orientation. They have found it in your brain tissue, particularly in regions associated with navigation, memory, and emotional processing. They have discovered it in your nervous system, in the tissues surrounding your spine, in the networks of nerves that branch throughout your body like rivers of electrical activity. Each location serves a purpose. Each concentration of magnetite crystals contributes to your overall ability to sense and respond to magnetic fields. The inner ear is particularly fascinating in this regard. This structure, no larger than a pea, contains fluid-filled chambers and specialized cells that detect movement and gravity. It is responsible for your sense of balance, for your ability to know where your body is in space without looking. It also contains magnetite crystals that work in concert with the gravitational sensing systems to give you a complete picture of your orientation relative to the world around you. When you close your eyes and stand on one foot, it is your inner ear that tells your brain where you are in space. And the magnetite crystals in that inner ear are contributing subtle information about magnetic direction, adding another layer of spatial awareness to your conscious experience. In your brain itself, magnetite has been found in the pineal gland, that mysterious structure deep in the center of the brain that produces melatonin, the hormone that regulates your sleep-wake cycle. This is not coincidental. The presence of magnetite in the gland that controls your circadian rhythms suggests a direct biological link between Earth's magnetic field and your sleep patterns. When the magnetic field is stable and strong, the pineal gland receives clear signals about the time of day and the season of the year. It adjusts the production of melatonin accordingly, ensuring that you feel sleepy at night and alert during the day. But when the magnetic field becomes disturbed, when solar storms send waves of magnetic disturbance toward Earth, the signals become confused. The pineal gland receives contradictory information. Your circadian rhythm becomes desynchronized. The distribution of magnetite throughout your body is not random. Evolution does not waste resources on structures that serve no purpose. Every crystal of magnetite in your being is there because, over millions of years, organisms with better magnetic sensing abilities survived and reproduced more successfully than those without it. The trait became encoded in your DNA, passed down through countless generations, refined and optimized with each successive improvement. You carry within your body the accumulated wisdom of millions of years of evolution, encoded in microscopic crystals that connect you to the magnetic forces governing your planet. Consider the precision of this system. The magnetite crystals in your eyes are not crude instruments. They do not simply respond to strong magnetic fields. They are sensitive enough to detect variations so subtle that they escape ordinary human awareness. A change in magnetic field strength of just a few nanoteslas can trigger a response in these crystals. A nanotesla is 1/1000th of a Tesla, the unit used to measure magnetic field strength. To put this in perspective, the total magnetic field strength at Earth's surface is approximately 50 microteslas, or 50,000 nanoteslas. Yet your magnetite crystals can detect changes of less than 1% of this value. This is a sensitivity that rivals some of our most sophisticated scientific instruments. The crystals themselves are arranged within specialized cells in a way that maximizes their sensitivity. They are not randomly scattered, but organized in structures that allow them to work together, amplifying the signal and reducing noise. When a magnetic field passes through these organized crystals, they respond in concert, creating a signal strong enough for your nervous system to detect and process. This is the biological equivalent of tuning a radio to a specific frequency. The crystals in your eyes are constantly tuning to Earth's magnetic field, translating its invisible presence into neural signals that your brain can understand. What is most remarkable about all of this is that it happens entirely outside your conscious awareness. You do not feel your magnetite crystals responding to the magnetic field. You do not see any visual indication of magnetic direction. Yet the information is being gathered, processed, and integrated into your overall perception of reality. Your brain is continuously updating its internal map of the world, based in part on the signals coming from these microscopic sensors. This is a profound truth about consciousness itself. So much of what your brain does happens beneath the threshold of awareness. Your brain is constantly receiving information from countless sources, processing it, interpreting it, and using it to guide your behavior and shape your experience, all without you consciously knowing that it is happening. The magnetite in your eyes connects you directly to Earth's magnetic field. It is a physical, biological bridge between your consciousness and the planetary forces that sustain all life. When you open your eyes and look out at the world, you are not just receiving photons of light. You are simultaneously receiving information about magnetic direction from the crystals embedded in your visual system. You are a being of remarkable complexity, layered with sensory systems evolved over eons to help you navigate and survive in a world governed by forces both visible and invisible. So as to the ancient memory. To understand why your brain is tuned to Earth's magnetic field, you must journey backward through time, far back into the deep history of life on this planet. Not just thousands of years, but millions. Not just millions, but billions. Your brain did not emerge fully formed from some evolutionary void. It evolved gradually, step by step, in response to the environment in which your ancestors lived. And that environment has always been magnetic. 4 billion years ago, when the first simple cells emerged in Earth's oceans, they did so in the presence of a magnetic field. This field was not the same as the one you experience today. It was weaker in some places, stronger in others, and it fluctuated in ways that we can only infer from geological records. Yet it was there, and the earliest forms of life, primitive bacteria and single-celled organisms, began to respond to it. Some of these organisms developed the ability to sense magnetic fields and use this sense to navigate toward food sources or away from dangerous environments. This was not a complicated ability. It required only a few genetic innovations, the development of proteins that could respond to magnetic forces. The organization of these proteins into structures that could detect field direction and strength. These early magnetic sensing bacteria were incredibly successful. In the competitive environment of ancient oceans, the ability to sense magnetic field direction gave them an advantage. Bacteria that could orient themselves toward magnetic north could more efficiently search for nutrients. Bacteria that could avoid areas of magnetic disturbance could avoid regions where conditions were unfavorable for survival. Over millions of years, this simple ability was refined and optimized. Bacteria developed more sophisticated magnetic sensing systems. Magnetite crystals were incorporated into their cells. Specialized organelles emerged, structures dedicated entirely to the detection of magnetic fields. When multicellular life emerged hundreds of millions of years ago, the magnetic sensing ability did not disappear. Instead, it was incorporated into the new, more complex organisms that were evolving. Fish, among the earliest vertebrates, developed the ability to sense magnetic fields. Archaeological evidence suggests that some of the earliest fish possessed magnetite in their inner ears and nervous systems, allowing them to navigate the three-dimensional environment of the ocean with precision. As fish evolved and diversified, colonizing different ecological niches, they carried this magnetic sense with them. It became a fundamental part of vertebrate biology. When some fish evolved into amphibians and crawled onto land, they brought the magnetic sense with them. When amphibians evolved into reptiles, the trait persisted. When reptiles evolved into birds and mammals, the ability to sense magnetic fields remained embedded in their biology. This is why birds today can navigate across continents using magnetic cues. This is why whales, which evolved from land mammals and returned to the sea, still possess sophisticated magnetic sensing abilities. This is why your own brain, descended through an unbroken chain of evolution from those ancient fish, contains magnetite and responds to Earth's magnetic field. Your brain is ancient. The human brain, with all its remarkable capacities for thought and emotion and consciousness, is built upon neural structures that evolved hundreds of millions of years ago. The oldest parts of your brain, the structures that regulate basic functions like breathing and heartbeat, are essentially the same as the brains of fish that swam in ancient oceans. Newer structures evolved on top of these, adding layers of complexity and capability. Your cerebral cortex, the seat of your highest cognitive functions, is a relatively recent addition in evolutionary terms. Yet even this newest part of your brain is built upon foundations that are ancient, beyond human comprehension. The magnetite in your brain is a legacy of this deep evolutionary history. It is a molecular fossil, a remnant of abilities that were crucial for survival in your ancestors. For hundreds of millions of years, the ability to sense magnetic fields was not a luxury or an interesting side effect. It was essential. It meant the difference between finding food and starving, between avoiding danger and being consumed by predators, between successful navigation and becoming hopelessly lost in a featureless environment. The organisms that had this ability survived and reproduced. Those that lacked it did not. Over vast stretches of time, this selective pressure shaped the brains and bodies of vertebrates, optimizing the magnetic sensing systems at every stage. Your own evolution as a human being is inseparable from this magnetic sense. Your ancestors, living in Africa millions of years ago, navigated the landscape using multiple cues. They used the sun and stars, of course. They used landmarks and memory, but they also used their innate sense of direction, their ability to know where north lay, their subtle awareness of the planet's magnetic field. This ability allowed them to range farther from their home bases, to explore new territories, to find new sources of food and water. Humans who had better magnetic sensing abilities were more successful hunters and foragers. They survived harsh seasons better. They found mates more easily. They passed their genes on to the next generation more frequently. This is the process of natural selection in its essence. Small advantages accumulate over generations. Traits that improve survival are preserved and refined. Over millions of years, these tiny improvements compound into massive changes. The human brain you carry in your skull today is the product of this process, shaped by countless selective pressures over an incomprehensibly long time scale. And one of those selective pressures, one of the many forces that molded human evolution, was the presence of Earth's magnetic field. The implication of this is that your brain is not simply responding to the magnetic field as an outside stimulus. Rather, your brain and the magnetic field have co-evolved. They have shaped each other over millions of years. Your brain developed in the presence of the magnetic field, evolved to interact with it, to depend upon it for certain functions. The magnetic field, in turn, has been present consistently enough over evolutionary time that organisms could rely upon it. The planet's magnetic field has not been perfectly stable. It has fluctuated. It has reversed polarity dozens of times over the past few million years. Yet it has always been present, always strong enough to be detected by sensitive biological systems. This consistency allowed evolution to build magnetic sensing directly into the fabric of animal nervous systems. When you examine the structure of your brain, you can see evidence of this ancient history. The pathways that process magnetic information are intertwined with the pathways that process other sensory information. Your brain does not have a separate, isolated system for magnetic perception. Instead, magnetic information is integrated into the broader systems that create your overall perception of the world. This integration is so complete, so seamless, that you are not consciously aware of it. But it is there. Your sense of direction, your sense of balance, your sense of where you are in space, all of these depend partly on information coming from magnetite crystals distributed throughout your nervous system. This ancient memory, encoded in your biology, connects you to creatures that lived before humans existed. It connects you to dinosaurs, to the first mammals, to the fish that first crawled onto land. Every living creature that possesses a nervous system carries some version of this magnetic sense. It is one of the most fundamental and universal sensory systems in the animal kingdom, and it is active in you right now as you read these words, as you lie in the darkness listening to this narrative. Your brain is receiving information about the direction of magnetic north. It is processing signals from magnetite crystals in your eyes and inner ear and throughout your nervous system. It is integrating this information into your overall sense of reality, your sense of place and direction and belonging. Understanding this deep history changes how you understand yourself. You are not a creature divorced from nature, not a consciousness somehow separate from the biological and physical processes that sustain you. You are part of a continuum of life that stretches back billions of years. Your brain, your body, your very being is woven from the same threads that weave through birds and whales and fish and insects. You share with them a sensitivity to magnetic fields, a capacity that has been refined and preserved because it works, because it helps organisms navigate and survive in a world governed by electromagnetic forces. This is not poetry, this is biology. This is the literal truth of your evolutionary inheritance. Birds know the way as spring approaches. Something stirs in the bodies of migratory birds. It is not a conscious decision, not a thought that arises in their minds. Rather, it is a biological imperative, encoded in their genes, triggered by subtle changes in day length and temperature and the strength of Earth's magnetic field. And then in waves and flocks and solitary journeys, millions of birds take to the sky. They fly for thousands of miles, crossing continents and oceans, navigating with a precision that still astounds scientists who have spent lifetimes studying animal migration. Consider the Arctic tern, a small seabird that is no larger than your hand. This creature weighs less than 4 ounces, yet every year it undertakes a migration of over 44,000 miles. It breeds in the Arctic during the northern summer, where the days are nearly endless and food is abundant. As autumn approaches and the days grow shorter, the tern begins its journey. It flies south following coastlines and crossing open ocean until it reaches the Antarctic, where it spends the southern summer. When that season ends, it turns around and flies north again, back to the Arctic. Over the course of its life, which can span 30 years or more, an Arctic tern will fly nearly 1 million miles. It will circumnavigate the planet dozens of times, following routes of extraordinary complexity, navigating through conditions of fog and storm and darkness. How does it do this? How does a creature with a brain the size of a pea find its way across an entire planet? The answer involves multiple navigating systems working in concert. The tern uses the sun and stars as guides, reading their positions to determine direction. It uses landmarks, the shape of coastlines and the positions of mountains and valleys. It uses wind patterns and ocean currents, feeling the flow of air and water against its body. But underlying all of these systems, providing a fundamental reference point that ties everything together, is the magnetic sense. The tern's brain contains magnetite crystals, concentrated particularly in the pineal gland and in specialized regions of the inner ear. It also contains special proteins, cryptochromes, that respond to magnetic fields in ways that scientists are still working to fully understand. These proteins appear to be sensitive not just to the direction of the magnetic field, but also to its inclination, the angle at which it enters Earth's surface. At the equator, the magnetic field is nearly horizontal. As you move toward the poles, the field tilts more steeply. At the north and south poles, the field points almost straight down. By sensing this inclination, a bird can determine not just which direction is north, but also approximately how far north it is. It is as if the bird has access to a global positioning system written into Earth's magnetic field itself. Research has shown that when birds are kept in laboratories where the magnetic field is artificially altered, their behavior changes correspondingly. A bird that would normally orient itself toward north will instead orient toward the direction indicated by the artificial field. This proves that the bird is genuinely using magnetic information to navigate, not relying solely on other cues. When the magnetic field is scrambled or reversed, the bird becomes disoriented, unable to maintain its normal direction of travel. Remove the magnetic field entirely, and the bird's ability to navigate becomes severely impaired. The mechanism by which birds sense the magnetic field is still not completely understood, and this is one of the most fascinating frontiers of biological research. Scientists have identified several possible mechanisms. One involves magnetite crystals in specialized cells in the inner ear and other tissues. These crystals can respond directly to the magnetic field, rotating slightly when the field direction changes. Another mechanism involves the cryptochromes in the bird's eye, proteins that appear to respond to the magnetic field through quantum mechanical processes. When a photon of light strikes a cryptochrome molecule, it can trigger a chemical reaction that is sensitive to the presence and direction of the magnetic field. In some way that scientists do not yet fully comprehend, this chemical reaction creates a signal that the bird's brain can interpret as magnetic direction. What is clear is that birds have evolved one of the most sophisticated magnetic sensing systems known to science. They can detect changes in magnetic field direction of less than 1 degree. They can sense the difference between the Earth's magnetic field and an artificial field that is only slightly different. They can use magnetic information to maintain their direction even when all other cues are unavailable. And they can do all of this while simultaneously processing visual information about landmarks, auditory information about wind and weather, and proprioceptive information about their own body position. The migration routes that birds follow are not arbitrary. They have been established over thousands of years, shaped by the geography of the planet and the distribution of food sources. Young birds that have never made the journey before somehow know the route. They inherit the knowledge encoded in their genes and in the magnetic field itself. The Earth's magnetic field acts as a map, a guide written in invisible lines of force that circle the planet. Birds read this map with the same ease that you read the signs on a highway. But the Earth's magnetic field is not static. It fluctuates, it shifts, it sometimes becomes severely disturbed by solar activity. When this happens, birds become confused. During strong geomagnetic storms, birds lose their ability to navigate accurately. They become disoriented, flying in random directions, sometimes crashing into obstacles. Scientists have documented cases where birds have collided with buildings in unusual numbers during periods of high geomagnetic activity. The disturbance of Earth's magnetic field disrupts the bird's ability to read the magnetic map that has guided their species for millions of years. This is a critical point to understand. The bird's magnetic sense is not a luxury. It is not a backup system used only when other cues are unavailable. Rather, it is the primary navigational system, the fundamental reference point to which all other information is compared. When the magnetic field becomes unreliable, the bird's entire navigational system fails. They cannot simply switch to using landmarks or the sun instead. Their brains are wired to trust the magnetic field first, to use it as the primary guide. When that guide becomes confused, the birds become confused. Consider the implications of this for human beings. We do not migrate like birds. We do not rely on magnetic navigation for survival the way that birds do. Yet we carry within our brains the same magnetic sensing systems that birds possess. We have magnetite crystals in our eyes and inner ears. We have cryptochromes in our visual system. We have neural pathways dedicated to processing magnetic information. The difference is that we have developed technology that allows us to navigate without relying on these ancient senses. We have compasses and maps and satellites. We have made ourselves to a large degree independent of the magnetic sense that was once crucial for our ancestors' survival. But this independence is only partial. The magnetic sense is still there, still active, still influencing our behavior and our perception in ways we do not fully understand. The birds teach us that magnetic fields are not abstract or irrelevant to living creatures. They are fundamental. They are woven into the fabric of animal behavior at the deepest levels. When you understand how profoundly the magnetic field influences bird migration, you begin to appreciate how it might influence human behavior as well, even if we are not consciously aware of it. Whales navigate the deep, in the vast darkness of the ocean, in depths where sunlight never reaches, where the weight of water is crushing and the cold is absolute. Creatures of extraordinary intelligence navigate with precision across thousands of miles of featureless ocean. Whales, the largest animals ever to exist on Earth, undertake migrations as remarkable as those of birds, yet in an environment that presents even greater navigational challenges. The ocean offers no landmarks, No visual reference points. The water is opaque to light. The darkness is complete. Yet whales find their way with remarkable accuracy, traveling from feeding grounds in polar waters to breeding grounds in tropical seas, and back again year after year, generation after generation. The whale's magnetic sense is even more developed than that of birds. Research has revealed the presence of magnetite in the tissues surrounding the brains of several whale species, particularly in the meninges, the membranes that envelop the brain and spinal cord. These magnetite deposits are arranged in patterns that suggest they function as a sophisticated magnetic sensing organ, perhaps even more sensitive than the magnetic sensing systems of birds. Additionally, whales possess an extraordinarily well-developed sense of hearing, and their auditory systems appear to be integrated with their magnetic sensing abilities in ways that are still being studied. The whale's migration is a journey of staggering proportions. A gray whale, for example, migrates from the Arctic waters of the Bering Sea to the warm lagoons of Baja, California, a distance of over 12,000 miles. The whale makes this journey twice per year, spending the summers in the productive polar waters where food is abundant and the winters in the warm breeding grounds. For a creature that weighs up to 40 tons, this journey requires the consumption of enormous quantities of food during the feeding season, enough to sustain the whale through the long migration and the winter breeding period. How does the whale find its way across the open ocean? The answer involves a sophisticated integration of multiple sensory systems. Whales use the Earth's magnetic field as a primary navigational guide, sensing its direction and inclination to maintain their course. They also use ocean currents, feeling the flow of water against their bodies and using this information to maintain position and direction. Some researchers have suggested that whales might use the sun's position when near the surface and the positions of stars during night surfacing. But the fundamental reference point, the system that ties all these other cues together and provides a reliable guide in the deep ocean darkness, is the magnetic sense. The integration of magnetic sensing with hearing in whales is particularly fascinating. Whales produce and hear sounds at frequencies and intensities that far exceed those produced by any other animal. A blue whale's call can reach decibel levels that would be deafening to human ears, and these calls can travel across entire ocean basins. Some researchers have proposed that the magnetic field itself might interact with sound in ways that whales have evolved to detect. The combination of magnetic field information and acoustic information might allow whales to create a three-dimensional map of their environment, even in the total darkness of the deep ocean. The whale's journey is not random or haphazard. Whales follow established migration routes that have been followed for thousands of years. These routes are passed from mother to calf, learned through experience and genetic predisposition. Young whales that have never made the journey before somehow know where to go. They inherit the knowledge encoded in their brains, in the magnetic sense that has been refined over millions of years of whale evolution. The magnetic field acts as a guide, a pathway of invisible force that leads the whale from one location to another, across oceans and around continents. But like birds, whales are vulnerable to disruptions in Earth's magnetic field. Geomagnetic storms can disorient whales, just as they disorient birds. There is compelling evidence that unusual whale beachings, events where whales swim into shallow water and become stranded, are correlated with periods of high geomagnetic activity. During strong solar storms, when the Earth's magnetic field becomes severely disturbed, whales appear to lose their ability to navigate accurately. They become confused, swimming in directions that would not normally lead them toward their destination. Some beached whales have been found with unusual magnetite concentrations in their meninges, suggesting that magnetic sensing organs had become damaged or dysfunctional. While there are other factors that can contribute to whale beachings, the evidence for a magnetic component is strong and compelling. The whale's dependence on magnetic navigation reveals something profound about the relationship between living creatures and Earth's magnetic field. For creatures that live in environments where visual navigation is impossible, the magnetic field is not optional. It is essential. The whale cannot survive without it. The whale's entire life history, its migration patterns, its breeding cycles, its survival as a species, all depend on the reliable presence of Earth's magnetic field. When that field becomes disturbed, the whale's entire world becomes unstable. This is a lesson for humanity as well. We have become somewhat independent of magnetic navigation thanks to our technology. We use GPS and electronic compasses. We navigate by landmarks and maps. We have freed ourselves from direct dependence on the magnetic sense, but this freedom is recent and fragile, and it comes at a cost. We have lost the conscious awareness of our connection to the planetary magnetic field. We have become disconnected from one of the most fundamental forces that has shaped our evolution and that continues to influence our bodies and brains every moment of every day. The whale teaches us that the magnetic field is not an abstract concept or a scientific curiosity. It is a living reality, as real as water, as real as food, as real as air. It is woven into the fabric of existence for creatures that live on this planet. And we are creatures that live on this planet. We are not exempt from the forces that govern all life. The magnetic field flows through us, just as it flows through whales and birds and every other living thing. We may have become unconscious of this flow, but it is there, influencing us, guiding us, shaping our behavior and our experience in ways we are only beginning to understand. Your circadian symphony. Every night as darkness falls and the world around you grows quiet, something extraordinary happens within your body. A cascade of biochemical events begins, triggered by the absence of light and guided by signals that have been refined over millions of years of evolution. Melatonin is released from your pineal gland, a hormone that signals to every cell in your body that night has arrived. Your body temperature drops slightly, your metabolism slows, your brain enters different states of consciousness, moving through cycles of sleep that are as regular and rhythmic as the tides. This is your circadian rhythm, your internal clock, the biological mechanism that synchronizes your body with the rotation of the Earth and the daily cycle of light and darkness. The word circadian comes from the Latin word circa, meaning approximately, and dies, meaning day. A circadian rhythm is a biological cycle that repeats approximately once every 24 hours. But it is not precisely 24 hours. In the absence of external cues, the human circadian rhythm runs slightly longer than 24 hours, about 24.5 hours. This means that without environmental input, your internal clock would gradually drift out of sync with the actual day-night cycle. You would find yourself getting sleepy later and later each day, until eventually you were sleeping during the day and awake at night. This does not happen because your circadian rhythm is constantly reset by environmental signals, the most important of which is light. When sunlight strikes your retina in the morning, specialized photoreceptor cells send signals to your brain, specifically to a region called the suprachiasmatic nucleus, or SCN. This tiny cluster of neurons, no larger than a grain of rice, acts as the master clock for your entire body. When it receives the signal that dawn has arrived, it begins a cascade of changes throughout your body. It reduces the production of melatonin, the hormone that makes you sleepy. It increases the production of cortisol, a hormone that promotes alertness and energy. It raises your body temperature. It triggers the release of other hormones and neurotransmitters that prepare your body for activity and wakefulness. But light is not the only signal that resets your circadian rhythm. There are other environmental cues called Zeitgebers, a German word meaning time givers. Temperature is one. Physical activity is another. Social interactions influence circadian timing. And there is another more subtle Zeitgeber that is only now being fully appreciated by scientists. Earth's magnetic field. The pineal gland, the gland that produces melatonin, contains magnetite crystals. It is directly adjacent to the suprachiasmatic nucleus. This anatomical proximity is not accidental. The pineal gland appears to receive input from the magnetic field, and this input influences melatonin production. When Earth's magnetic field is stable and strong, the pineal gland receives clear signals about the planetary magnetic environment. These signals, in combination with light signals from the eyes, help to synchronize your circadian rhythm with the Earth's rotation. Your circadian rhythm is not a simple on-off switch. It is a complex symphony of biological processes, involving hundreds of genes and thousands of proteins, all working in intricate coordination. Your body temperature follows a circadian pattern, rising during the day and falling at night. Your hormone levels fluctuate in circadian patterns. Your immune function, your cognitive performance, your mood, your appetite, your digestive processes, all of these follow circadian rhythms. Some of these rhythms are controlled primarily by light, others by temperature, others by social cues, and some, particularly those related to navigation and spatial orientation, appear to be influenced by the magnetic field. When your circadian rhythm is properly synchronized, you feel healthy and energetic. You sleep deeply at night and are alert during the day. Your mood is stable. Your immune system functions optimally. Your cognitive performance is sharp. But when your circadian rhythm becomes desynchronized, when it falls out of sync with the external environment, problems emerge. You experience insomnia. You feel fatigued during the day. Your mood becomes unstable. Your immune function deteriorates. Your cognitive performance declines. You become susceptible to a range of health problems, from increased risk of infection to increased risk of depression and anxiety. Jet lag is a familiar example of circadian desynchronization. When you fly across multiple time zones, your body's internal clock is no longer aligned with the local day-night cycle. You are sleepy when you should be alert, and alert when you should be sleepy. It takes several days or even weeks for your circadian rhythm to readjust to the new time zone. During this adjustment period, you experience fatigue, difficulty concentrating, and digestive problems. Your body is trying to resynchronize its rhythms with the new environmental cues, but this process takes time. But there is another source of circadian disruption that is less commonly discussed: disturbances in Earth's magnetic field. When geomagnetic storms occur, when solar activity sends waves of magnetic disturbance toward Earth, the magnetic field becomes turbulent and unpredictable. The clear signal that the pineal gland has learned to rely on becomes confused. The magnetite crystals in your pineal gland and throughout your brain receive conflicting information. Your circadian rhythm becomes desynchronized, not because the external light-dark cycle has changed, but because the magnetic environment has changed. The effects of geomagnetic storms on human circadian rhythms are subtle but real. Studies have shown that during periods of high geomagnetic activity, people report sleeping less well, experiencing more insomnia, feeling more fatigued during the day. Their mood tends to be more unstable. Some studies have found correlations between geomagnetic activity and increases in depression and anxiety. These effects are not universal, and not everyone is equally sensitive to geomagnetic disturbances, but the pattern is consistent enough that geomagnetic activity is now recognized as an environmental factor that can influence human health and well-being. Imagine your circadian rhythm as a musical symphony. Your body is the orchestra, and the various hormones and neurotransmitters are the instruments. Light signals from the environment are the conductor's baton, keeping all the instruments in time. But there is another conductor in the orchestra, one that has been there for millions of years, hidden and almost invisible: Earth's magnetic field. When the magnetic field is stable and strong, this hidden conductor provides a subtle but steady beat, helping to keep everything synchronized. But when geomagnetic storms occur, this hidden conductor becomes erratic. The beat becomes unstable. The instruments fall out of time. The symphony becomes discordant. Your body is remarkably resilient and adaptive. It can adjust to changes in the external environment, including changes in the magnetic field. But this adjustment takes time, and during the period of adjustment, you may experience sleep disturbances, mood changes, and other symptoms of desynchronization. Understanding this connection between Earth's magnetic field and your circadian rhythm helps to explain some of the sleep difficulties and mood disturbances that people experience. It is not necessarily a sign of illness or psychological problems. It may simply be that your circadian rhythm is responding to changes in the planetary magnetic environment. The storm within the sun, that massive ball of nuclear fusion at the center of our solar system, is not a stable, unchanging star. It is dynamic and turbulent. Its surface churns with convection. Its magnetic field is constantly shifting and reorganizing. And periodically, the sun releases enormous bursts of energy, events called solar flares and coronal mass ejections, that send waves of radiation and charged particles streaming out into space at speeds that can exceed 1 million miles per hour. When these waves of solar energy reach Earth, they interact with our planet's magnetic field. The magnetosphere, that invisible bubble of magnetic force that surrounds Earth and protects us from the worst of the solar wind, becomes compressed and disturbed. Magnetic field lines that normally flow smoothly from north to south become twisted and tangled. The magnetic field strength fluctuates wildly. The direction of the field shifts. This is a geomagnetic storm, and when it reaches Earth, it affects everything that depends on the magnetic field, including you. A strong geomagnetic storm is a dramatic phenomenon. The northern and southern lights, the aurora borealis and aurora australis, are visible as far south and north as the continental United States and Europe. Power grids can be disrupted. Satellites can malfunction. Radio communications can be interrupted. These are the obvious visible effects, but there are more subtle effects as well, effects that occur in the brains and bodies of living creatures, effects that most people are not consciously aware of. During geomagnetic storms, the signals that magnetite crystals in your brain receive become confused and contradictory. The magnetite in your eyes, which normally provides a clear sense of magnetic direction, receives signals that fluctuate and shift. The magnetite in your pineal gland, which helps to regulate your circadian rhythm, receives signals that are no longer reliable. Your brain, which has learned to trust these signals over millions of years of evolution, becomes disoriented. It is as if someone has taken the compass that has guided your species since before humans existed and scrambled the needle, making it spin wildly in random directions. The effects of this magnetic disorientation on human consciousness and mood are profound. During periods of high geomagnetic activity, people report feeling more irritable and anxious. Depression deepens. Mood swings become more pronounced. Sleep becomes more difficult. Some people experience headaches. Others experience a vague sense of unease, a feeling that something is wrong without being able to articulate what it is. These symptoms are not imaginary. They are real physiological responses to real changes in the planetary magnetic environment. The mechanism by which geomagnetic storms affect mood and behavior is not yet completely understood, but several pathways have been identified. One involves the pineal gland and melatonin production. When the magnetic field becomes disturbed, the pineal gland receives confused signals about the time of day. It produces melatonin at the wrong times, disrupting your sleep-wake cycle. Poor sleep leads to mood disturbances, cognitive impairment, and a general sense of malaise. Another pathway involves the brain's production of serotonin, a neurotransmitter crucial for mood regulation. Some research suggests that geomagnetic activity can influence serotonin production, leading to mood changes. A third pathway involves the vagus nerve, a major nerve that connects your brain to your body and plays a crucial role in the autonomic nervous system, the system that controls functions like heart rate and digestion. Geomagnetic activity may influence the vagus nerve's function, leading to changes in heart rate variability and emotional regulation. It is important to note that not all geomagnetic storms are equally disruptive. The intensity of a geomagnetic storm is measured on a scale from G1, the weakest, to G5, the strongest. Most geomagnetic storms are relatively weak, with intensities of G1 or G2. These mild disturbances may cause only subtle effects on human mood and sleep. Stronger storms with intensities of G3 or higher produce more pronounced effects. A G5 storm, the most severe possible, can cause significant disruption to sleep and mood in a large percentage of the population. The frequency of geomagnetic storms varies with the solar cycle. The sun's magnetic activity follows an approximately 11-year cycle, during which the number of sunspots and solar flares waxes and wanes. During the active phase of the solar cycle, geomagnetic storms are more frequent. During the quiet phase, they are less frequent. We are currently in a period of increasing solar activity, moving toward the solar maximum expected around 2025. This means that geomagnetic storms will become more frequent over the next few years. For people who are sensitive to geomagnetic activity, this will mean more frequent periods of sleep disturbance, mood changes, and cognitive difficulties. But understanding this connection between geomagnetic activity and your mood and sleep can be empowering. When you experience inexplicable irritability or anxiety or sleep difficulty, you can check the geomagnetic activity index. If geomagnetic activity is high, you know that your symptoms are not necessarily a sign of psychological illness or personal failure. Your brain is simply responding to real changes in the planetary magnetic environment. This knowledge can help you to be more compassionate with yourself, to understand that you are not broken or defective, but rather responding normally to an unusual environmental stimulus. There are also practical steps you can take to mitigate the effects of geomagnetic storms on your sleep and mood. Maintaining a consistent sleep schedule, even during periods of high geomagnetic activity, helps to keep your circadian rhythm as synchronized as possible. Exposure to bright light in the morning helps to reset your circadian clock. Avoiding screens and bright light in the evening helps to promote melatonin production. Physical exercise, particularly in the morning or afternoon, helps to regulate your circadian rhythm and improve sleep quality. Mindfulness practices and meditation can help to regulate your emotional responses to the stress that geomagnetic activity can produce. The storm within is not something to fear. It is a natural response of your brain and body to changes in the planetary magnetic environment. You are not alone in experiencing these effects. Millions of people around the world feel the same disruptions in sleep and mood during periods of high geomagnetic activity. You are part of a planetary community of living beings, all responding to the same magnetic disturbances. And understanding this connection helps you to feel less isolated, more connected to the larger forces that shape existence on Earth. Decision-making under magnetic influence. When you make a decision, you believe that you are acting based on rational analysis and conscious deliberation. You weigh the pros and cons. You consider the options. You think about the consequences. And then you choose. This is how you understand decision-making. It is a conscious, deliberate process governed by logic and reason. But the truth is far more complex and far more interesting. Your decisions are influenced by factors you are not consciously aware of. Factors that operate beneath the threshold of consciousness, factors that have been shaped by millions of years of evolution. And one of these factors is Earth's magnetic field. Research in neuroscience has revealed that decision-making involves the integration of multiple types of information from different regions of the brain. Your prefrontal cortex, the region behind your forehead, is responsible for deliberate, conscious reasoning. It analyzes information logically and makes plans. But other regions of your brain also contribute to decision-making. Your amygdala, an almond-shaped structure deep in your brain, processes emotions and generates intuitive responses. Your insula, a region hidden within the folds of your brain, processes information about your body's internal state and generates feelings of gut intuition. Your anterior cingulate cortex monitors for conflicts and errors and adjusts your behavior accordingly. Your hippocampus retrieves memories and uses them to predict the consequences of different choices. All of these regions work together to generate a decision. Sometimes the different regions agree, and you feel confident and certain about your choice. Sometimes they disagree, and you feel torn and uncertain. Your conscious mind experiences this uncertainty as a dilemma, a conflict between two competing options. But at the neurological level, it is a disagreement between different systems in your brain, each pulling in a different direction. Now, consider the role of the magnetic field in this process. The magnetite crystals in your brain are constantly receiving information about the planetary magnetic field. This information is being processed and integrated into your overall brain function. The magnetite in your pineal gland influences melatonin production, which affects your alertness and your mood. The magnetite in your inner ear influences your sense of spatial orientation and balance. The magnetite distributed throughout your nervous system influences your sense of direction and your intuitive sense of where you are in space. All of this information is being fed into the decision-making process. When you make a decision, you are not just consciously thinking about the options. You are also drawing on your intuitive sense of direction, your sense of balance and spatial orientation, your emotional state influenced by melatonin and other hormones. Your gut feeling, that intuitive sense that something is right or wrong, is based partly on explicit conscious reasoning, but also partly on information coming from magnetite crystals and other sensory systems that you are not consciously aware of. This is where the magnetic field becomes relevant to decision-making. When Earth's magnetic field is stable and strong, the signals from magnetite are clear and reliable. Your intuitive sense of direction is accurate. Your sense of spatial orientation is correct. Your emotional state is stable. All of this contributes to clear decision-making. You feel confident. You feel grounded. You feel connected to something larger than yourself. Under these conditions, your decisions tend to be wise and well-considered. You are able to integrate conscious reasoning with intuitive wisdom, creating decisions that serve you well. But when geomagnetic storms occur, when Earth's magnetic field becomes turbulent and unpredictable, the signals from magnetite become confused and contradictory. Your intuitive sense of direction becomes unreliable. Your sense of spatial orientation becomes unstable. Your emotional state becomes volatile. All of this contributes to poor decision-making. You feel confused. You feel ungrounded. You feel disconnected and adrift. Under these conditions, you are more likely to make impulsive decisions, to act without thinking, to choose options that you might later regret. This has profound implications for understanding human behavior and human psychology. Many decisions that seem to be purely rational based on conscious deliberation are actually influenced by the state of the planetary magnetic environment. When you make a decision during a period of high geomagnetic activity, you are making that decision under conditions of magnetic disorientation. Your brain is not receiving clear signals from the magnetite crystals that normally help to ground and orient you. Your intuitive sense is unreliable, and yet you are not consciously aware of this. You experience the decision-making process as normal and rational. You do not realize that your judgment is being influenced by the magnetic field. This is not to say that you should distrust your decisions during periods of high geomagnetic activity. Rather, it is to suggest that you should be aware of the conditions under which you are making decisions. If you are making an important decision during a period of high geomagnetic activity, you might want to take extra time. You might want to consult with others. You might want to wait and see if you feel the same way about the decision a few days later, after the geomagnetic storm has passed. You might want to pay extra attention to your intuitive sense, but verify it with conscious reasoning before acting on it. There is also something profound here about the nature of intuition itself. Intuition is often portrayed as something mystical or irrational, something that stands in opposition to logic and reason. But intuition is actually a form of intelligence, a way of processing information that is different from conscious reasoning, but equally valid. Your intuitive sense is based on pattern recognition, on the integration of vast amounts of information, on the wisdom encoded in your body and your nervous system. When your intuitive sense is clear and strong, it is often more accurate than conscious reasoning alone. The magnetic field may be one of the sources of intuitive wisdom. Throughout human evolution, your ancestors relied on their magnetic sense to navigate, to find food, to avoid danger. The organisms that had accurate intuitive senses, that could trust their gut feelings about direction and location, were more likely to survive and reproduce. Over millions of years, this selective pressure created a brain that is finely tuned to the magnetic field. Your intuition may, in part, be your brain's way of accessing the information that magnetite crystals are receiving from the planetary magnetic field. This suggests a different way of thinking about the relationship between logic and intuition. Rather than seeing them as opposites, as competing systems that must be reconciled, you can see them as complementary. Logic provides explicit, conscious reasoning. Intuition provides implicit, unconscious wisdom. When both are working properly, when the magnetic field is stable and your intuitive sense is clear, they work together to create wise decisions. When the magnetic field is disturbed and your intuitive sense is confused, logic alone is not sufficient. You need both systems working together. Understanding this connection between the magnetic field and decision-making also helps to explain some of the collective behavior patterns of human societies. During periods of high geomagnetic activity, when many people's decision-making is affected by magnetic disorientation, there can be collective behavioral changes. Crime rates sometimes increase, traffic accidents sometimes increase, divorce rates sometimes increase. These are not coincidences. They are the natural result of millions of people making decisions under conditions of magnetic disorientation without being consciously aware of it. The sleeping brain. When you fall asleep, your brain does not shut down. Rather, it enters a different mode of operation, one that is as active and dynamic as waking consciousness, but organized according to different principles. Your brain enters a state of extraordinary activity, a state in which it consolidates memories, processes emotions, repairs cellular damage, and engages in activities that scientists are still working to fully understand. And throughout all of this, Earth's magnetic field is present, influencing the processes that occur during sleep in ways that are only now being fully appreciated. Sleep is not a uniform state. It cycles through different stages, each with its own characteristics. When you first fall asleep, you enter stage 1 sleep, a light sleep in which you can still be easily awakened. Your brain waves slow down, your heart rate decreases, your body temperature drops. After a few minutes, you move into stage 2 sleep, a deeper sleep in which your brain produces distinctive patterns of electrical activity called sleep spindles. Then you move into stage 3 sleep, the deepest stage of non-REM sleep, characterized by very slow brain waves and a state of profound relaxation. After spending time in stage 3, you move backward through the lighter stages and then enter REM sleep, a stage in which your eyes move rapidly back and forth beneath closed eyelids. Your brain is highly active and you experience vivid dreams. This cycle through the different stages of sleep takes approximately 90 minutes, and then it repeats. Over the course of a night, you cycle through this pattern 4 to 6 times, gradually spending more time in REM sleep and less time in deep stage 3 sleep as the night progresses. By the end of the night, you may be spending most of your sleep time in REM sleep, the stage associated with vivid dreams and emotional processing. The architecture of sleep, this pattern of cycling through different stages, is not arbitrary. It is the product of millions of years of evolution, refined to optimize the functions that sleep serves. Memory consolidation happens primarily during REM sleep and during the transitions between sleep stages. Emotional processing happens during REM sleep. Physical restoration happens during deep stage 3 sleep. The immune system is particularly active during sleep, using this time to repair cellular damage and fight off infections. Growth hormone is released primarily during stage 3 sleep, promoting physical growth and repair. Now consider the role of Earth's magnetic field in this sleeping process. The magnetite in your pineal gland is receiving signals from the planetary magnetic field. These signals are contributing to the regulation of melatonin production, which is maintaining your sleep state. The magnetite in your brain is also influencing the electrical activity of your neurons, the firing patterns that generate the brain waves you produce during sleep. When your brain produces the slow waves characteristic of deep stage 3 sleep, the magnetite in your brain is responding to the magnetic field, helping to generate and maintain these slow waves. When the magnetic field is stable and strong, the signals that magnetite receives are clear and consistent. Your melatonin production is stable. The electrical activity in your brain follows normal patterns. You sleep deeply and peacefully. Your brain goes through the normal sleep cycles, spending appropriate amounts of time in each stage. Your memories are consolidated properly. Your emotional state is processed and balanced. You wake up feeling rested and restored. But when geomagnetic storms occur, when the magnetic field becomes turbulent and unpredictable, the signals that magnetite receives become confused. Your melatonin production becomes erratic. The electrical activity in your brain becomes disorganized. You have difficulty falling asleep. Your sleep is restless and fragmented. You do not spend enough time in deep stage 3 sleep. You do not get adequate REM sleep. You do not wake up feeling rested. Instead, you wake up feeling tired and irritable, as if you have not slept at all, even though you spent 8 hours in bed. This is a critical point for understanding sleep disturbances. Many people blame themselves for poor sleep, assuming that it is due to stress or anxiety or poor sleep habits. And certainly these factors can contribute to sleep problems. But there is another factor that is often overlooked, the state of the planetary magnetic environment. If you are experiencing sleep disturbances and you have checked the geomagnetic activity index and found that geomagnetic activity is high, then your sleep problems may not be your fault. Your brain is simply responding to real changes in the planetary magnetic environment. The effects of poor sleep on overall health and well-being are profound and well documented. Poor sleep is associated with increased risk of depression and anxiety. It is associated with impaired cognitive function and poor decision-making. It is associated with increased risk of obesity and metabolic disorders. It is associated with increased risk of cardiovascular disease. It is associated with increased risk of infection. It is associated with accelerated aging and increased mortality risk. When you understand that geomagnetic storms can disrupt sleep, you begin to appreciate the far-reaching effects that geomagnetic activity can have on human health and well-being. But there is also something beautiful about understanding the connection between sleep and the magnetic field. Sleep is one of the most intimate and vulnerable states you can be in. During sleep, you are not conscious. You are not aware of your surroundings. You are not in control, and yet your brain is active and working. Your body is engaged in essential repair and restoration. You are held in this state by forces that you cannot see or consciously feel. Earth's magnetic field is present, supporting your sleep, helping to guide your brain through the complex cycles that sleep requires. In a very real sense, you are being cradled by the planet during your sleep, held in a state of restoration and repair by forces that have been present since before you were born, and will continue long after you are gone. Understanding this can bring a sense of peace and trust to sleep. Rather than struggling against insomnia, rather than feeling frustrated by sleep disturbances, you can recognize them as your brain's response to changes in the planetary environment. You can trust that your brain knows what it is doing, that it is responding appropriately to the conditions it finds itself in, and you can take steps to support your sleep, to work with your brain rather than against it, to create conditions that allow your brain to sleep deeply and peacefully, to allow the magnetic field to support and guide your sleep through the night. Synchronization across species. Stand in a forest and listen. If you listen carefully, if you allow yourself to become quiet and receptive, you might hear something remarkable. The sounds of countless creatures, all living their lives, all engaged in their daily activities, birds singing, insects buzzing, leaves rustling in the wind, water flowing. And beneath all these sounds, if you listen deeply enough, is a kind of symphony, a pattern of rhythm and coordination that connects all these creatures together. They are not consciously coordinating with each other. There is no central conductor orchestrating their behavior. And yet, there is a profound synchronization, a harmony that emerges from the interactions of countless individual creatures, each responding to the same environmental cues, each synchronized to the same planetary rhythms. Earth's magnetic field is one of the most fundamental of these synchronizing forces. It is the invisible conductor that keeps all the creatures of this planet, from the smallest bacteria to the largest whales, moving in a coordinated dance. Migrating birds time their journeys according to changes in the magnetic field and day length. Migrating fish time their movements according to the same cues. Breeding animals time their reproduction according to seasonal changes in temperature and day length, both of which are reflected in changes to the magnetic environment. Predators and prey have co-evolved in the presence of the same magnetic field, each developing abilities to sense and respond to magnetic cues. Consider the remarkable synchronization of firefly flashing. Thousands of male fireflies will gather in a small area, each producing flashes of light according to a specific rhythm. Somehow, these individual fireflies become synchronized, all flashing in unison, creating a spectacular light show that can be seen from great distances. How do they do this? The mechanism is not fully understood, but it appears to involve both visual feedback and possibly magnetic sensing. The fireflies are responding to each other's flashes, but they are also responding to the planetary environment, including the magnetic field. The result is a synchronization so complete that thousands of individual creatures appear to act as a single organism, Or consider the migration of monarch butterflies. These delicate creatures, weighing less than a gram, undertake a journey of over 2,000 miles, flying from Canada to Mexico. They navigate using the sun as a compass, but they also use the Earth's magnetic field. The magnetite in their bodies helps them to maintain their direction, to stay on course despite winds and storms and other disruptions. And somehow millions of individual butterflies, born in different locations in different years, manage to converge on the same small forests in Mexico where they have never been before. They have never learned the route from other butterflies. They have never traveled it before, yet they find their way, guided by the same magnetic forces that guide birds and whales and fish. This synchronization across species reveals something profound about the unity of life on Earth. All living creatures, from the smallest to the largest, from the simplest to the most complex, are synchronized to the same planetary rhythms. They are all reading from the same magnetic map, all responding to the same seasonal changes, all dancing to the same cosmic beat. This synchronization is not coincidental. It is the product of billions of years of evolution, during which all creatures have evolved in the presence of the same magnetic field, the same day-night cycle, the same seasonal changes. And you are part of this synchronization. Your circadian rhythm is synchronized to the same planetary rhythms that synchronize birds and whales and butterflies. Your sleep-wake cycle is timed to the same magnetic field that guides migrating birds. Your reproductive cycles, your hormonal fluctuations, your moods and emotions, all of these are influenced by the same planetary forces that influence all other living creatures. You are not separate from nature. You are not above or beyond the forces that govern all life. You are a participant in the same grand symphony that includes every living thing on this planet. This realization can be deeply humbling and deeply comforting at the same time. It is humbling because it reveals that you are not the center of the universe, that your individual concerns are part of a much larger pattern. It is comforting because it reveals that you are connected to something larger than yourself, that you are part of a vast community of living beings, all synchronized to the same planetary rhythms, all responding to the same forces that have governed life for billions of years. The synchronization across species also suggests something about the nature of consciousness itself. Consciousness is often thought of as something uniquely human, something that sets us apart from other animals. But when you consider the remarkable synchronization across species, when you see how all creatures are responding to the same environmental cues, when you observe the apparent purposefulness of their behavior, you begin to wonder if consciousness is not uniquely human, but rather a property of life itself. Perhaps consciousness is not something that emerged suddenly in humans, but something that has always been present in living creatures, expressed in different ways, manifested in different forms, but fundamentally the same. The magnetic field connects all creatures in this synchronization. It is the medium through which the larger patterns of life are expressed. When you understand this, you begin to see yourself differently. You are not an isolated consciousness trapped in a body, separate from the natural world. You are a conscious being, yes, but a conscious being that is intimately connected to all other conscious beings on this planet, all synchronized to the same magnetic field, all participating in the same grand dance of life. Living in harmony. Now that you understand the profound connection between your brain, your body, and Earth's magnetic field, you might wonder, how can I use this knowledge to live more harmoniously? How can I work with these planetary forces rather than against them? How can I align myself more consciously with the magnetic rhythms that have shaped all life on this planet? These are practical questions and there are practical answers. The first and most important step is awareness. Simply being aware that Earth's magnetic field influences your sleep, your mood, your decision-making, and your overall well-being is a significant step toward living in greater harmony with these forces. When you experience sleep disturbances or mood changes, you can check the geomagnetic activity index. If geomagnetic activity is high, you know that your experience is not a personal failure or a sign of illness, but a natural response to changes in the planetary environment. This awareness itself can be therapeutic. It can reduce the stress and self-blame that often accompanies sleep problems and mood disturbances. There are several resources available online that provide real-time information about geomagnetic activity. The Space Weather Prediction Center, operated by the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, provides daily forecasts of geomagnetic activity. Various smartphone apps also provide this information. By checking the Geomagnetic Activity Index, you can become aware of when geomagnetic storms are occurring and prepare yourself accordingly. When you know that geomagnetic activity is high, you can take steps to support your sleep and mood. Maintain a consistent sleep schedule, even during periods of high geomagnetic activity. Your body's circadian rhythm is stronger when it is reinforced by a consistent schedule. Go to bed at the same time every night and wake at the same time every morning, even on weekends. This consistency helps your circadian rhythm to remain synchronized despite the disruption caused by geomagnetic activity. Exposure to bright light in the morning is one of the most powerful tools for synchronizing your circadian rhythm. When you step outside and expose yourself to sunlight in the morning, you are sending a powerful signal to your brain that the day has begun. This signal helps to reset your circadian clock, ensuring that your melatonin production begins at the appropriate time in the evening. Even on cloudy days, outdoor light is more intense than indoor light. Even a few minutes of outdoor exposure in the morning can significantly improve your sleep quality. This is particularly important during periods of high geomagnetic activity when your circadian rhythm is most vulnerable to desynchronization. Conversely, avoiding bright light in the evening helps to promote melatonin production. Your pineal gland is sensitive to light, and the blue light emitted by screens can suppress melatonin production. Try to avoid screens for at least an hour before bedtime. If you must use screens in the evening, consider using blue light filters or wearing blue light blocking glasses. Keep your bedroom dark, quiet, and cool. A cool bedroom around 65 degrees Fahrenheit is optimal for sleep. Darkness is important because even small amounts of light can interfere with melatonin production. Physical exercise is another powerful tool for synchronizing your circadian rhythm and improving sleep quality. Exercise in the morning or afternoon, not in the evening. Morning or afternoon exercise helps to reset your circadian clock and promotes alertness during the day. Evening exercise can be stimulating and can interfere with sleep. Aim for at least 30 minutes of moderate exercise most days of the week. Exercise outdoors when possible combines the benefits of physical activity with the benefits of light exposure and connection to the natural environment. Meditation and mindfulness practices can help you to work with your magnetic sense rather than against it. These practices help to quiet the conscious mind and allow you to become more aware of subtle sensations and intuitions. Regular meditation can enhance your sensitivity to the magnetic field and help you to develop a more intuitive sense of direction and orientation. Even a few minutes of meditation per day can be beneficial. Try sitting in a quiet place, closing your eyes, and focusing on your breath. As thoughts arise, notice them without judgment and return your attention to your breath. Over time, this practice can help you to develop a deeper awareness of your connection to the planetary environment. Spending time in nature is another way to synchronize yourself with the magnetic field. When you spend time outdoors, you are immersed in the natural environment, including the magnetic field. You're exposed to natural light, which helps to regulate your circadian rhythm. You're exposed to the sounds and smells of nature, which can be calming and restorative. You are moving your body in natural ways, which helps to maintain physical fitness and health. Try to spend at least some time outdoors every day, even if it is just a short walk around the block. Grounding, or walking barefoot on the earth, is a practice that some people believe helps to synchronize with Earth's magnetic field. The theory is that the Earth carries a negative electrical charge, and walking barefoot allows this charge to flow into your body, providing health benefits. While the scientific evidence for grounding is mixed, there is no harm in walking barefoot on natural surfaces when possible, even if the electrical aspects of grounding are not as significant as some proponents claim. The act of walking barefoot on the earth is a way of connecting consciously with the natural environment, of acknowledging your place in the web of life. Pay attention to your intuitive sense. Your intuition, as we discussed earlier, may be partly based on information coming from magnetite crystals in your brain. Learn to trust your gut feelings, but verify them with conscious reasoning before acting on them. When you feel drawn in a particular direction, when you have a sense that something is right or wrong, pause and pay attention to this feeling. What is your intuition telling you? Is it consistent with your conscious reasoning? If not, take time to explore the discrepancy. Sometimes your intuition is picking up on subtle cues that your conscious mind has not yet processed. Finally, cultivate a sense of wonder and awe about your connection to Earth's magnetic field and the larger forces that sustain all life. Spend time contemplating the fact that you are a conscious being, aware of your own awareness, living on a planet that is spinning through space, surrounded by an invisible field of magnetic force that connects you to every other living thing. This contemplation can help you to feel less isolated and anxious, and more connected and at peace. You are not alone. You are part of something vast and ancient and beautiful. You are synchronized with all the creatures of this planet, all dancing to the same cosmic rhythm, the eternal dance. As we come to the end of this journey, let us take a moment to reflect on what we have explored together. We began with the simple observation that you are surrounded by an invisible magnetic field, and we have traced the implications of this fact through every level of your being, from the microscopic magnetite crystals in your eyes to the grand synchronization of all life on this planet. We have seen how this field has shaped your evolution, how it guides your sleep and your waking consciousness, how it influences your moods and your decisions, how it connects you to birds and whales and every other living creature. The picture that emerges from this exploration is one of profound interconnection. You are not an isolated consciousness trapped in a body, separate from the natural world. You are a living antenna, constantly receiving and processing information from the electromagnetic environment around you. You are a conscious being, yes, but a conscious being that is embedded in a larger field of consciousness. A consciousness that extends beyond your individual brain and connects you to all life on this planet. You are a participant in an eternal dance, a dance that has been choreographed by billions of years of evolution. A dance that includes every living thing, all moving in synchronization with the same planetary rhythms. This realization can be transformative. It can change the way you understand yourself and your place in the world. When you truly grasp that you are connected to Earth's magnetic field, that your sleep and your mood and your intuitive sense are all influenced by this invisible force, you begin to see yourself as part of nature rather than separate from it. You begin to understand that the problems you experience, the sleep disturbances and mood changes that sometimes plague you, are not personal failures but natural responses to the planetary environment. This understanding brings compassion and acceptance. It brings a sense of peace. And when you understand that every other living creature on this planet is also connected to Earth's magnetic field, that birds and whales and butterflies and insects and plants are all synchronized to the same planetary rhythms, you begin to feel a deep sense of kinship with all life. You are not alone. You are surrounded by billions of conscious beings, all responding to the same forces, all participating in the same grand dance. This realization brings a sense of belonging, a sense of connection that can ease loneliness and anxiety. The magnetic field is not something to fear. It is not a threat or a danger. It is a gift, a blessing that has made life possible on this planet. Without Earth's magnetic field, life as we know it could not exist. The field protects us from the solar wind and cosmic radiation. It helps to regulate our climate. It guides the migrations of countless creatures. It synchronizes the sleep-wake cycles of all living beings. It is the invisible infrastructure that sustains all life. And when the magnetic field becomes disturbed by solar storms, when it becomes turbulent and unpredictable, this is not a catastrophe. It is a natural part of the solar cycle, something that has happened countless times throughout Earth's history. Life has adapted to these fluctuations. Your brain has evolved to be resilient, to adjust to changes in the magnetic environment, to continue functioning even when conditions are not ideal. Yes, you may experience sleep disturbances and mood changes during periods of high geomagnetic activity, but these are temporary. Your brain will adjust. Your circadian rhythm will resynchronize. The disturbance will pass. There is a larger perspective that can help you to maintain peace and equanimity during difficult times. You are living on a planet that is 4.5 billion years old. You are part of a species that has existed for several 100,000 years. You are a conscious being capable of understanding the forces that shape your existence. This is extraordinary. This is remarkable. And it is humbling. Your individual concerns, your personal anxieties, your day-to-day struggles, all of these are real and important. But they are also part of a much larger pattern, a pattern that extends far beyond your individual life. When you can hold both perspectives at once, when you can take your concerns seriously, while also recognizing that you are part of something vast and eternal, you find a kind of peace. You find the ability to be present with what is, without being overwhelmed by it. You find the ability to act with purpose and intention, while also accepting that you cannot control everything. You find the ability to be both engaged and detached, both caring and peaceful. This is the gift that understanding your magnetic connection offers. It is not just information about how your brain works or how the magnetic field influences your sleep. It is a perspective shift, a way of seeing yourself and your place in the world that brings greater peace and greater connection. When you lie down to sleep at night, you can feel the magnetic field cradling you, supporting your sleep, guiding your brain through the complex cycles that sleep requires. When you wake in the morning, you can feel yourself synchronized with the rhythms of the planet, in harmony with the cosmic dance that includes every living thing. This is what it means to be alive on Earth. This is what it means to be human. You are a conscious being, aware of your own awareness, capable of understanding the forces that shape your existence. You are connected to the planet, to the solar system, to the galaxy, to the universe. You are part of the dance, and the dance is part of you. And this dance, this eternal rhythm of magnetic forces and planetary rotations and cosmic interactions, this dance will continue long after you are gone, continuing to synchronize and sustain all life on this beautiful magnetic world. Thank you for joining me on this journey into the invisible world of magnetism, into the depths of your own consciousness, into the eternal dance that connects all life on Earth. If this experience has brought you inner peace, if it has deepened your understanding of your connection to the planet and all its creatures, I would appreciate a like and a subscription to Relaxing Science. Share your thoughts in the comments below. Where are you as you listen to this? What time is it where you are? What has this exploration meant to you? Your words matter. Your presence matters. You matter. And know that the magnetic field is with you always, guiding you, sustaining you, connecting you to all life. Sleep well tonight, knowing that you are held by forces ancient and true, forces that have sustained life for billions of years and will continue to do so for billions of years to come. Rest in peace, knowing that you are exactly where you need to be, synchronized with the rhythms of the cosmos, dancing the eternal dance that is life on this magnetic planet. Goodbye for now, but we will meet again in the realm of relaxing science, where wonder and peace await.